10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
Exactly which ones.
Guys, this is the first.
Doing to build your late game. I just feel like they kind of have a mix of everything. It's a very good all-around lineup, and it gets very scary around the 30-minute mark.
All right, well, we're into the game now, ready to see if Clutch Gamers can possibly, somehow, some way, take down Team Faceless. And something just to mention real quickly, since we have a little bit of time before the game actually gets started with the inaugural pause. I think that the Southeast Asian region as a whole is going to be really interesting to watch because you have so many of these teams who have been competing in small online interactions. They've been playing consistently together in a bunch of other qualifiers. Traditionally, it's been China that's been known to have crazy things happen, but when I'm looking at these regional qualifiers, it sort of reminds me of how China was before Manila, that there's a ton of teams like right under the periphery where they could maybe break through, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and of course, with the current system for the majors, right now we still have 2 slots for SEA. So while you might be expecting a team like Faceless to go right through, I do think that there are a lot of teams that could be vying for that second position. So any games that you could win, obviously, in this group stage to make sure you get to the playoffs are going to be important. But if you can take a game off Faceless where nobody else can, then you're going to be feeling really confident to at least make it to the top 4.
An early wards placed out now across the map. You can see one over here on the hill as well as one over on the other side of the hill. Not sure if that one was scouted. Ogre did end up getting his smoke broken on the Ember Spirit, but it looks like it's just going to be a trade of the bounty runes for now and probably no D-wards. Maybe this one up in the top side gets D-warded as the Clockwork got his smoke broken as well on the ET, or rather on the Silencer.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy D-ward for them, but the thing is that they're still not going to have the pole camp available because they're unlikely to be D-warding the Eastern Sentry. So they might get the Ops, but if they don't get the Sentry as well, they're still not going to be able to really control the Creequilibrium. And Clockwork, as we've seen many, many times in the past, can always pull the lane back with the power cogs, and if you don't have poles, and you only get maybe 1 or 2 spawns from the hard camp, it's actually going to be the Clockwork that gets a lot of free experience in a very fast level 6.
This is cool, by the way. We're actually seeing they go in, Clutch Gamers, to contest the other bounty rune, take it down, and now they're actually going to stick the Ogre down here. I was expecting him to go mid, but feeling like I guess the Tinker is going to have a good enough matchup against the Ember Spirit. Do you have to be worried about Ember just sort of diving you early as a Tinker and pressuring the lane out and killing you with a Flame Guard and a Chains?
I mean, if you're playing at low health, you definitely have to worry about it. If you buy up like a salve and get a fast enough bottle, then you really don't. But there are certainly situations where we have seen those kind of solo first bloods or just early kills. The one thing you got to look at though is this matchup here and just the Ogre and the Darkseer and what they can accomplish against this Warlock. They do have the Ignite skilled up, the Orb of Venom, so you can stay on this hero for a long time and do a lot of continuous damage with the Ion Shell. But in order to out-damage just a self-cast Shadow Word, you're probably going to need 2 Ion Shells up and have the Darkseer at level 3. So I'm curious where Darkseer gets that early experience, how fast he's going to get to his key odd levels of 3, 5, and 7, and then enable them to actually get a kill, because otherwise the damage just feels a little bit too slow. And in the neutral game, Anti-Mage is able to just win out because of that mana break and the mana dependency of both Ogre and Darkseer early.
All right. We'll have to keep our eyes on that. Of course, going up 2 melee heroes against the Anti-Mage isn't the greatest in the world, but I think that it's also, isn't it a pretty tough matchup just for the Darkseer in general to deal with him if he was solo? Is this more a response to how, like, you're just going to be able to farm as Anti-Mage, right?
Yeah, I think that that's going to be true, but at the same time, you have to realize that Darkseer is a hero that can always surge away. He doesn't really feel threatened. I mean, you rotate the ET and the Warlock in, and unless XY is just, like, ungodly with his stomps, it's still going to be the Darkseer that can kind of slip out of anything. So if you leave it in a 1v3 situation, you're always going to get experience in the Darkseer. You should be able to get some gold here and there. If you commit to this 2v3, put some pressure elsewhere, I think that should be fine as well.
Well, another pause. We have Darkseer. He certainly needs to be in the game to get that level 3. It happens pretty shortly here. Another lane that we haven't talked about a ton, Clockwork versus Silencer and Juggernaut. Since there is no Ogre in this lane, it's maybe a little bit more scary to deal with, but do you feel like the Clockwork should be able to farm in here against, like, there feels like there's kill potential with the Last Word and Blade Fury as long as the cogs are down. So it has to be pretty judicious with those cog usage.
Yeah, but I think it's as long as he keeps, he'll be in an okay position. You'll note a key Mango pickup on the Juggernaut though. With a Clockwork versus Juggernaut, you're usually focused on mana burning as much as possible, so that he can't spin on you. But as long as he always has the Mango in the back pocket, you can't really rage in the cage against him. It's always going to be still Juggernaut that has the kill potential. So it's going to be a defensive lane for both sides, I think. Like, Ogre and Darkseer will try to get a bit of aggression down on the off lane, and if that fails, which it most likely will, then they'll kind of have to just commit to roaming and pressuring Ember while Darkseer gets levels. But Clockwork by default, as long as the pull camp is still locked down, I think he'll just be playing passive the whole time.
This Courier, I was taking a look at the Ember Spirit in the mid lane, and then I spotted something way in the background, and it's a little Pudge. Oh wait,
He gets 6 heroes? Okay, guys, wrap it up. 6v5. We know from Fear Dota that is just an imbalanced draft.
Absolutely. Look at this guy. He's awesome, though. He's got a golden chain. He's got something on his back.
Decked out.
Yeah, it's great. Clockwork there as well. Yeah, I want to mention the Warlock set, too. Occasionally we get a little bit of time to talk about the sets here. It's got a little spooky hand on it as well. But hopefully the game ends up getting started soon. This is always the problem with the open qualifiers. Occasionally teams end up running into some issues with internet. And such gamers certainly would love to be able to start this game off right.
There is a rule book out, so I'll go ahead and consult how long we have to actually wait for these pauses here, but hopefully we can just get a fair fight between the two sides and kind of go forward with some awesome SEA Dota. As far as the current scenario, Faceless, I feel like they feel pretty confident, at least getting into groups at a pretty high seed. I'm wondering actually where the mindset is in terms of how hard they have to push themselves in the group stage as a whole, because in previous majors, at least like Manila and before, if you made top 1 in the groups, you could actually just get directly to the event, and then there would be one more slot available from the playoffs and a wildcard slot as well. In this one, you don't actually have a full incentive to get first place in the group. You want to get top 4 for sure. Top 2 guarantees you a great seed, but all in all, you know, you're not in a fully compelled position to just go all out in this group stage. It's just going to seed you into the playoffs of teams you're going to be facing off against anyways in double limb. So all in all, I would say that I think Faceless, they're not going to be coasting necessarily, but they're just going to be kind of asserting their dominance, showcasing what they can do, their skill set in these different SEA matchups, and I think that they're probably okay with dropping a game here or there. The competitive streak of these players, you know that they're always going to want to try to push for the win, but there's limits. These schedules are pretty brutal for us as casters, but you still got at least 5 officials a day and 6 or 9 in the playoffs. So you do have a little bit of a long road here throughout a whole round robin and a double in bracket to try to make it to the Kiev. And obviously they don't want to be showing too much at this stage in time.
Yeah, like saving strats, certainly I think that's been kind of not proven, but at least said to be very much not a thing. But you do still have...
Depends on who you talk to.
Right, well, I guess that's fair, okay. Like, you want to be able to go into this match and continue the momentum going forward. Particularly if you start losing games, maybe that gets into your head and suddenly a hero pick doesn't sound as good as it would have before, or something like that. But I don't know. And Faceless is a team that, on occasion, has sometimes underperformed even when people were expecting really good things of them. I think that there's probably maybe a little bit of an edge on their team after some of the performances and the way that things ended up going, maybe not getting that direct invite that they were hoping for, possibly as well, grinding their gears slightly.
Yeah, to an extent, but it's not going to be that crucial if they can still just secure the top 2. I mean, at least SEA gets 2 slots. It would be really unfortunate if there was no direct invite from SEA and you only had one SEA slot to play around, and either TNC or Faceless or one of these up-and-comers is completely left out in the cold. But we'll have to keep our eye on this bottom lane to start things off. I think the first couple of levels is really important. And again, mana dependency for this Ogre, it's actually so crucial. Like, when I play Ogre, I buy like at least 1 Clarity and then probably pick up 2 more by the 5-minute mark, because it's just so important to keep the ignites rolling. You do have the Shrine to work with between the 2 heroes, but this anti-mage just gets like 3 free hits on you, and suddenly you've got 1 spell left to cast.
Yeah, and I mean, Warlock just casted 190 mana spell, and that ended up taking away all of the ogres pretty much, just because he had to man up against the anti-mage. So a really rough start here. He ends up bringing a Clarity out to himself, tries to fight off here against Nuts, but it could be a tough lane. And also, Darkseer, a hero that's been having some troubles with mana as well with the most recent nerfs.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's been kind of putting more pressure on him to go for more mana early, not rushing the Soul Ring as actively. But one thing they do have is health to work with at the very least. With just the continuous HP regen and high armor, this ogre could still be kind of just man mode and full smoke on him. But I just don't know if they're going to accomplish too much. Like, they're not really shutting down Blackened Farm right now. Darkseer, again, is going to be pretty hungry for mana as this lane matchup progresses. And maybe it's just better suited for the ogre to go elsewhere. I mean, I know once Ember Spirit's Flame Guard is at level 2, the ogre's not able to do too much in that capacity either, but I feel like it's better to try and offset the Ember than to try to stop Black from getting the CS that he deserves.
Well, and, you know, even though this is pushing under now and we're sort of back to about even, Darkseer is 10 CS. You take a look, Anti-Mage has been able to get his. But across the board, it's sort of feeling like it's okay for them right now. Juggernaut doing significantly better, at least at this point, than the Clockwork. Those 6 denies are mostly cogs, if I'm not mistaken. So by and large, things going okay. Is there a point where this turns in the bottom lane? Like, they've already had to use the Shrine. How detrimental is that?
Well, I mean, obviously that's their main cool for sustain. You already see Boomback making his rotation towards mid. Going to try to go for an opening here. And actually, Jabs is caught out quite a bit. Still has Flame Guard and Fairy Fire, though, so it's going to be a big dive.
Well,
Or
him.
No Fairy Fire at all. And he will survive. Or it's quite the opposite. It's just like there's like 2 auto attacks I think they would need if the Fairy Fire came out, and that would be hard to like dive for. And you could have the ET come in with the Echo Stomp and turn that around, but just underestimate the laser damage there. It's going to be... right now, only skills from Tinker is the 2 in laser. You have kind of 2 variations. You either have he can pursue March now and go for a lot more active farming, or more commonly in SEA, we've been seeing the full nuke build, the 4-4-0-1. And so that would allow him to just burst people down. So in that case, 2 laser, 160 pure damage, underrated by Jabs, and that's going to be the first blood on the board.
Yeah, rough start, definitely. And Jabs, you know, he's going to be able to come back into this one, but still only holding onto that Fairy Fire as well as the Poor Man's Shield, whereas for Tinker, you've got the Sell the Bottle. Jabs does get it, but the Courier actually was brought out to black over on the side lanes, and because of that, it's going to be a little while before it's here. Maybe Tinker could even do a little bit more aggression if he wanted to, although he did end up using his Shrine already.
Black is getting suppressed a little bit under the tower, but he's got his Spell Shield, his Headdress online, and Nuts has plenty of potential with the Shadow Word and Clarity to keep him sustained. So all in all, now you're going to start to see that lane turn, and eventually the Darkseer might just choose that. He's going to be more efficient in the jungle and back off.
Well, 4-minute mark, we end up seeing a couple bounty runes taken. XY was able to steal one away from the Ogre Magi. And he is going to be coming back towards the side here. With the Invis rune, is there some potential here for a kill onto Nuts? Or is that sort of still a little bit of a pipe dream?
It's definitely theoretically possible, but in the end, the Shadow Word just heals so much per second. I think they still should try for it. They'll get a lot of good damage in. They're doing the Invis Iron Shell play right now, and it took Nuts a few seconds to notice it, that his health was ticking down. But all the same, it seems like it's just going to be harassment and poking and forcing the Warlock to play a little bit more passively.
By solo up in the top side, he is going to be having a chase down by the Clockwork on top of him, but you do have a spin available in a second if he wants to pop the Mango.
He's just TP out, I think. Like, he's in such an awkward position now. Like, you have a full creep wave on you. You can't do too much as Clockwork, but Ice is known for those unique plays and getting very aggressive, especially when he's Timbersaw. You get like that max passive and you just go behind the tower immediately.
Oh, Ice under here. Excuse me, Nuts. He's going to do it to me all freaking game long. Fullback's end up taking the kill. It's going to be blocked in there by Black. Can't get through the trees. But another kill going their way. And Clutch Gamers off to a pretty decent start here, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, not bad at all. I think a couple of times Faces have underestimated their opposition, either with the laser damage coming out on the Ember, or just there. The Warlock was kind of trying to bait the Ogre further under tower, could have healed himself sooner, and as a result, he just gets gunned down. So pretty problematic to be down 2 kills at this stage as the Tinker continues to build momentum. He's got Soul Ring, Bottle, and we'll just be working towards VOTs at this point.
Now, not to try and get too far ahead of ourselves, but I will say Clutch Gamers is one of those teams that I think a lot of the people who've been following the Southeast Asian scene have been saying have the potential to really make a run at Faceless here. And
Dire's middle
they've
tower
already
is
gotten
under
off to a
attack.
really hot start. If you're Faceless at this point, do you need to start sort of hitting any panic buttons at all, or do you sort of go in there with an XY, I guess, maybe try and find a kill?
I mean, I still think the mid to late game is really strong for Faceless. There are some situations where you could still see Clutch Gamers pulling out a later stage win, but for the most part, I would just say the draft extremely favors Faceless as the game goes on.
Really sketchy setup right here. Now they are going to end up pulling out the March of the Machines, and Ice might be in a little bit of trouble with the March going through. They are going to be able to find that kill. They end up losing Fly solo before it happens, and looks like the Ogre is going to be able to walk away as well. Very awkward moment there for XY, and it doesn't look like he's going to be punished for going in there and diving deep.
Yeah, but still, it's not the kind of rotation you want where your Clockwork makes a move and he is the one that kind of suffers for it. At least they get a kill on the board and also get to put a lot of pressure on Hannah on bottom, but yeah, in general, it's not. None of these are clear victories for Faceless is the big deal. So I think they're just kind of have to play the clock a little bit, and not clockwork, but like the time factor in this game, where you're able to extend your potential in the mid to late game with this anti-mage who is in fact going for Helmet Dominator. Sometimes you see that headdress, you think maybe a Vlad could come online in terms of just keeping your hero sustained and making him truly unkillable, but he finds his HP regen to be better suited for this kind of more high tempo item. It's a very cost effective and it does have a lot of potential value.
Well, mid lane, Ice misses a hook shot there, and he went for this early Urn build. I'm assuming, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is mainly aimed toward trying to get like very active early on and sort of snowball off of kills. Is this a problem if he's not finding those kills and building up Urn charges?
I mean, the Urn charges are very important here, no doubt about that, but I also think it's just a good item in terms of the passive stats that it will offer, and actually might just find a free kill onto the Tinker here. Very big pickup. Armel caught out, and that's such a great pickup for Ice.
Nicely done. I mean, he ends up getting the bounty rune, but loses his life for it, so a great pickup, like you said, getting those Urn charges. And now maybe he can make something else happen around the map, because he didn't even have to use hookshot for that, so he'll have it back up again in 20 seconds.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just getting as much health early on in the Clockwork. He used to have like the Bulba build that involved treads and bracers and Magic Wand, but in this case you can kind of move towards more proactive items after this Urn of Shadows.
Oh, Nuts up here in the bottom lane is going to end up getting ran down. Hana as well as Bonebox able to find him. And
you just can't play it up that far as a Warlock. It's really awkward for him. There are stuns available, so TP is really an option at this point either. It's just you have to play pretty much under tower and have a TP ready on the Elder Titan if you're going to be able to deal with this lane.
I feel like, was it always that you ended up going for Tinker 3 points and Laser? I felt like you kind of tended to keep it at the 2. Am I wrong in that, or is it just because of the Anti-Mage and the Ember that he's going this build?
I mean, it 2 is good for just like getting the free creep kill, and also it puts out a moderate amount of damage for combat. So if you're just focusing on farm entirely, yeah, I think that you don't really need to focus as hard on Laser, but yeah, there is the Flame Guard, there's the Spell Shield you have to worry about. Laser's just a little bit more pure burst damage, so I definitely think it's going to be a viable skill to max second.
Okay. We ended up seeing another missed hook shot there. Maybe a little bit of nerves, or just not quite on the perfect time to be able to find a kill, but still they haven't really addressed the problem of this anti-mage. He's been getting pretty good farm. Is it something to be concerned about at all for them, or do you think that they've been able to get enough out of the other heroes on the map that they're not too worried about what Black's doing?
Yeah, I feel like they still have to take objectives. So the big thing is Juggernaut hasn't really pushed this top tier 1. It's been either the Elder Titan or the Clockwork making sure that stays safe and sound. And as a result, like, I feel like they always have to feel pressured this game to start at least taking some of the map. The more towers you take, the more space Tinker has to play around the creep waves, DOT blinking, and just marching and keeping the lanes pushed out. And then, of course, that also opens up different things like early Roshan for Juggernaut, and just even more towers and more momentum. I do think that they have to rely on this Juggernaut kind of ending the game around that time where he gets level 18 and he's at his strongest.
Well, we do have the Global Silence now online with that Tome of Knowledge picked up, so Silencer ready to become a bigger part of these fights. In your eyes, do you want to try and roam in and like get a kill early on? Do you take that down to the bottom and try and take down Black, or do you think it's maybe a little bit more important to try and shut down the Ember a little bit?
I mean, either one that feels vulnerable is going to be a good pickup. They're going to be smoking here, and I think they just go for the higher percentage play. Both Ember and Anti-Mage are a pretty much evenly key pickups. So whichever one they actually feel is a viable kill, and they're going to go for it. And it looks like it's going to be the attempt to go for the global and Omni Slash on
Dire's middle
the
tower is
anti-mage
under
on
attack.
bottom lane, and they got the lane in a perfect position for it.
I mean, Black is super ready for this, though. Way behind the tower. He does have a TP scroll to get out of here, and it doesn't look like he... Well... Oh, Black, he wants to farm. He wants to farm real bad. He hits one creep and now realizes this could be a problem, but he's going to be able to blink out of there and TP's away. So, all right, heads up play from Black to get himself out of there.
Yeah, it's a really good read by him. And, I mean, killing a full HP anti-mage really requires everything that you have available. You had to commit 2 ultimates and probably at least 3, if not like 4 or 5 heroes in order to guarantee that kill. And even then you see just good positioning, good map sense, and he gets to slip right out of there and start pushing top. Like, now that he realizes there's nobody to start protecting the top lane, Ogre will come and try to do something, but what can you really do? At least now we do see Clutch Gamers taking up the first tier 1 tower of the game, and again, that's very important for them.
All right. Did also see for a second there, Ice, as well as Nuts showing in the middle lane. Tinker was thinking about heading over that direction, but we'll stop that movement. They're going to be able to hold on to their tier 1 tower in the mid lane, while, like he said, Ogre up here top. He keeps the anti-mage off of this for the moment. And by and large, they're not losing towers. They're building up a net worth lead, and it's, you know, right now it's to the tune of about 3,000 into their favor with right around 1,000 experience.
Yeah, and I think that the item on Ice's Quick Buy is probably the most indicative of their current state of mind at this game. He's looking for a Hand of Midas, and they just want to drag this out. They know that they have tons of potential to push back the wave with various mechanics such as like the Sleight of Fist with Maelstrom, the Rocket Flares, the ET is a classic for this kind of thing, so they can make sure that these creep waves don't really get to the towers conveniently. Juggernaut's the only one that pushes quickly. So what it means is they can continue to just turtle, they can continue to build themselves up gradually, and they'll find themselves in a very strong position from late game.
Well, they're now moving in towards Ice. Doesn't look like he is going to be able to make too much of this. Maybe he can get the hook shot out to the creeps in just a second, and, well, ends up getting caught there, actually. They are going to be able to be blocking his path, and now Ice in trouble, is going to get punched to death, as well as the March of the Machines. Jabs on top of the Ogre Magi now, and well, he's actually walking out of there. Remnant forward. He's still a pretty tanky guy. Flies solo, trying to walk out, and they use another Remnant to secure the kill from Jabs.
Yeah, that hero is so damn tanky. But in the end, I think that it's okay to make that a 1-for-1. You get the global out of it, and what you always want to do against the support silence in this situation, this hero is essentially his global. Like, he hits the R button, and then he doesn't do anything for 2 minutes. So you always just keep a clock on the global silence, know when it's up, know when you can fight and be aggressive, because when it's down, Black can push out so much further. You could just pretty much do anything you want. I mean, what control do they offer other than global silence? They have like the mini stun of vacuum, and they have a fire blast. They don't have any way to stop Ember Spirit and Anti-Mage from jumping in and out. So that global is really the lifeblood of this team in terms of finding kills.
Am I having deja vu right now? What the heck is going on? Ice about to go down again, the exact same spot. Tries to make his way out, but all right. I don't know. I guess is it just continuing to make space? You may force the rotations up top. He wasn't expecting them to come back. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, you can say space all you want, but that does seem like he was a little bit too far forward. The thing is, they're going to be able to get mid off of it, or at least a lot of damage on it. Actually going to drop the rock here.
My god, the Remnants forward. They've been able to find the Tinker, and he is going to drop. So 2 down for Jabs, and they will take that tower.
And actually still have the Purge creep on the Darkseer, so he can't surge out here. This actually might be a kill again. They're going to be seeing the Echo Stomp try to head him off. Purge creep does not get the...
Oh, he's out of mana. Oh.
It just happened a little bit too early. Like, it actually happened at almost the same time. The Purge came out on the Darkseer, but the Surge had come out just thereafter. So what that means is, of course, Hannah will be able to slip away. But at the same time, you get that tier 1 in middle, you get the kill on the Tinker, and space is indeed created by Daryl.
They made it work nonetheless. I'm sure that it was all intentional there. Nothing out of the ordinary going on. And he is also now about halfway to his Midas. So something to think about as this game goes on longer. And we miss a kill here in the mid lane. Hannah actually ends up going down. Doesn't look like Jabs is going to be able to get out of there too easily. Yeah, he's just going to walk away. So with this Juggernaut, and you have Bloodlust there for him as well, Silencer, a hero that can sometimes scale into the late game, do you still have a potential to win late against this lineup from Faceless, or do you think that Faceless going for the Midas, having that anti-mage getting crazy farm, is it just like late game be-all end-all for them?
It's always possible, but it requires your opponent to make a lot of mistakes here. Because if we're just seeing Black play his flip push game, and they don't have any control to lock him down until Tinker gets a Hex, you're actually just going to be seeing an inability to take objectives. Your lane's always pushed against you, and it doesn't matter that you might be stronger in a 5-on-5 team fight because the Faceless won't be giving it to you.
Okay. Well, pressure now in, maybe feeling a little bit under the gun. Clutch Gamers wanting to take this tier 1 tower. There is Fatal Bonds onto 2, and definitely an ability that can cause a lot of trepidation amongst the squad. They're just going to keep the pressure on. They got the healing ward. Back out for a moment.
Oh, they see Isis. This could be very bad for him. He's kind of trying to go for the Mega Flank, and yeah, he has some tools to escape, and of course they only have like 2 stuns available to them, so he can still continue to play aggressive, but Abby goes for the clear objective and taking the tier 1 in mid, so we're going to be seeing down bottom potential. Ultimate could come out from Anti-Mage. Yeah, he'll just stop the Tinker in his tracks, and that is a freebie for Black.
I mean, he was stalking him there for a little while, and I wasn't really sure what the Tinker was planning on doing, but
yeah, he just wasn't aware at all, I don't think. I mean, you don't expect an Anti-Mage to just come out of the woods and gank you at 17 minutes into the game. That's not what the hero does, man.
And another one of these smoke movements down there, I believe that this might have been scouted out by either some creeps or something, but Black, his spidey senses tingle and heads off into the woods, realizing that he could end up dropping, and is probably going to cut the next creep wave, I would imagine. Or possibly just head back home.
Probably can cut one more and then just kind of do whatever he wants. At this point in time, just going to be pressure on tier 2 bottom. And at least Clutch Gamers have the right focus. They know that they need the objectives. They know that they need to try to make this game end as quickly as possible. I really do think that they hit a critical mass very early here. It's actually going to be a hook shot that's going to be forcing some spells out of Abing.
All right, they drop down the rock as well. Going to be able to hit onto 2, but might not end up working out into their favor. They drop the wall. Omni Slash as well. That is a dead Clockwork, and now oh my God! Jabs double kill for him. Oh baby, the Remnants forward, and looks like Fly Solo gonna drop as well. Oh no, that went from bad to worse to terrible.
Yeah, and you know what that was? It was what I was talking about before with the natural order amplification. There might have been some Fatal Bonds action in play too, but the main thing is Veil of Discord and natural order, making the damage that they take from these spells ridiculous. A triple Remnant on top of that? Oh boy, it just tears them apart. I was actually a little bit wary of Faceless trying to go for like a full 5-on-5 into global at this stage in the game where the Darkseer has its mechanism. They're feeling pretty confident, but when you got nuke damage like that, it just doesn't seem to matter.
This is so cool too, because you're looking at what the Darkseer has. He ended up going for the mechanism first, and feels like he wants to eventually go for a pipe while we have XY Invis back behind here. But he actually needs the Force Staff too, and you can see him now switching over to the Hood of Defiance, seeing his team needs it. So Clockwork is threatening and meaning that they have to pick up a Force Staff, but you also have them needing a pipe. So just a really cool draft, I think, from Faceless here.
Yeah, you knew that. Like I mentioned, Silencer is not going to be able to afford one for a while. It's just Force Staff is such a key item in this game, especially against the Clockwork, but to a decent extent against this Ember Spirit and Elder Titan as well. Positioning is very important against those 2 heroes. So yeah, the Tinker's going to be the first one to pick up a Force Staff, but I could definitely see the Darkseer going for that after his pipe action. But now got rooted in place, worried about the Echo Stomp, tries to juke south, and it actually might do it. Yeah, he's got the reinforcements he needs.
Scary moment. Yeah, Jab's just going to back out. Now XY also able to make his escape. And it looks like the time has come for farming to continue for Anti-Mage, who finishes off Valkyrie, and they just start moving around the map. More impunity. Tough one.
All the ultimates are coming up for Clutch Gamers though, so great time for a smoke here on the eastern side, and they will try to kind of sync up here. We do see the Juggernaut moving in from the mid lane. Will he be able to get the Omni Slash on a good target? He's got a DD rune too. A lot of potential damage, but they need to find the opening. Again, they do not have much control right now, and they pretty much have to make their initiations count and nuke somebody within like a 3-second span. It looks like it's going to be a Nuts that's on the chopping block here, as they just need to get the jump forward, and they can't close the distance.
Oh man, he fogged him there as well, and now 2 are caught. They hook shot in onto them as well. They have the upheaval already down. Slowed up, double remnant forward, trying to take him. They find that kill, and he threw the second remnant back. So traveled to the 2, killed it off there. Now they jump forward. Chain's gonna connect onto Silencer. He's gone.
It's so awkward, man. Like, they want these kills so bad, but it has to be such a formulaic approach from Clutch Gamers. They have to have all 3 variables in place. They have to have the element of surprise. They have to have all the ultimates available and used perfectly. Like, they just need so much to get these kills, and I think that's probably the most important factor in this game, is simply to do less than Faceless. They have to do at least a 3v1 to kill off any of these cores, other than Ice, who's just having a good game overall. And yeah, it just comes down to the fact that Faceless have picked up a really slippery lineup that's really difficult to punish.
My goodness. Well, very impressive display so far from Faceless. I don't think anybody in the world is surprised by that. Granted, it is still, you know, not necessarily a huge win. It was a 4,000 lead for Clutch Gamers before. Now it's a 4,000 lead for Faceless. Although,
but in the context of this game, that's,
right, exactly.
That's huge. Like, that's almost that's halfway to victory right there, just in the context of this game, because you already have better farming tools with Black having his Battle Fury up and rapidly approaching his Manta style. The Juggernaut can't keep pace with just his basic phase Yasha Helmet Dominator. So that, along with the fact that we're not going to be seeing the Hex for another, I would say, like 7 or 8 minutes from Armel, I just feel like Faceless are in a very confident position for pretty much the third part of this game.
Well, this is definitely going to be. I mean, the thing about it too that I'm looking at, it doesn't feel like Faceless need to make anything else happen really at this point, right? Like, do they need to try and finish off the last round of Tier 2 towers, or are they comfortable just splitting the map up, getting good wards down, maintaining vision with Clockwork?
You look at Warlock's quick buy. He's going -2. They don't need to do anything. My kid's watching, so I can't be too vulgar about it. But they really just could sit and do whatever the heck they want. They, at this point in time, they have all the time in the world. They can wait until the fire trails start going behind the Darkseer as the map falls apart here, like an hour and a half into this game if they really want to. But that won't really be necessary. You're getting to a point now. The Ember Spirit, he's got his spell amp. He's got his movement speed. He's going to have level 18. We've seen what he can do with 200 damage fire remnants. Now we're going to be seeing what he can do with 300 damage fire remnants. And there's just not enough mitigation in the world. You can get pipe, mech, everything, and it's still going to be just absolutely brutal. It's going to be a Eul Scepter as well for the Dispel. I thought he might go for like a Manta style build. I've even seen Lotus Orb once or twice because it's really good against the Tinker Hex. But he goes for the Euls, and that'll be an interesting tool to try to take these exchanges.
Well, it looks like they are kind of moving into a position to get slightly aggressive along the bottom here. And Invis Ogre is going to scout this all out. And it does look like he's actually going to be revealed. Oh, no. Okay, well, they found the Ogre now. Global Silence does come out for the counter initiation. And looks like they are going to lose Ice. Ooh, maybe went a bit too deep. Jab's also getting very frisky. And it's going to now TP out of there. So this is something I'm sort of curious about. If you're Clutch Gamers, you are very aware of this situation as well. You see Anti-Mage cutting the creep wave mid. How do you respond to this type of play at this point?
I think you just give all the farm to Armel and you get him a Hex. It's the only way that you can really start punishing these approaches. Because right now, again, they are on this clock where every 2 minutes they have a global that can allow them to do something. That can allow them to take a fight bottom. That can allow them to get a hero kill or 2, a random pickoff. But if they don't have more consistent control and a shorter cooldown, then they're just kind of hopeless. So Armel just has to go into full farm mode. Yeah, there might be overextended heroes like the Anti-Mage going and cutting the creep waves, but you just have to focus on just getting the Hex, because otherwise, like, it may look like they're out of position, but they're actually just fine.
So, like you said, Eul Scepter soon to be up now for Jabs. Again, it's sort of a... I don't know, what do you think is the main emphasis behind him going for that? Is there anything particular, or a reason why it's better in this game over others, or just...
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, it's got to be a Dispel, right? So
yeah.
Your Manta, your Lotus, or your Euls are all quite applicable. I do think it gives you the extra TP cancel. Like, you get Searing Chains out, and the Tinker tries to slip away still, you might still be able to pursue him with Remnants and get the Euls on him. So that could be pretty solid. In general, they've been enjoying a lot of purge mechanics with the little Satyr Trickster running around. So I think it's just overall solid, and it'll allow him to keep his mana pool up constantly.
All right, well, Tier 1 tower starting to drop now. Everybody from the side of Clutch Gamers not really willing to take this fight, and continuing to spam out these rockets. Ice is causing trouble. God, it's gotta hurt. And he's actually going back himself for a hood.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't expect that one, to be honest with you. The hood on Ice. It's a good item when he plays Timbersaw, but in this game, I expected him to maybe even go for like an Aghanim Scepter and keep those shots rolling. But hood here is perfectly fine. Still going to be able to give him a lot. End of the day, we are going to be seeing some medallion action on Roshan, and they're going to try to take that as quickly as they can. The beauty of this is they get to bait a fight with the global and try to force like a 5v5 that they're actually ready for. They could absolutely tear Faceless apart if they try to contest this Roshan.
Well, Jab's in the area. They're going to start spamming out the March. Chains as well down. Have the Ogre in there. They drop the rock. It's a little bit scary at this point. The Remnant 4 trying to get it. Aegis is still on the ground. They haven't taken it. So much damage onto Faceless' team, and they do end up snatching it with Ice. But it might come at a big old cost as they're starting to run them down. Everybody runs into the Cogs, but will still get pushed back by the Cogs. That's going to be 3 dead. They lose the Aegis, but they win the fight handedly.
That was not a fight they needed to take, quite obviously. In this position, you usually look to extend the play and just say, okay, well, you have Aegis, but what are you going to do with it? You're not a ranged hero beating at the barracks from low ground. You're a Juggernaut. You have to commit. Maybe you just force staff him or stomp him or do whatever you want that'll set up a kill. I don't think Aegis on Juggernaut is the game breaker here, and committing like that, they actually lose more than they gain by far. So yeah, you feel a little bit compelled to go for a Roche fight because you have heroes like Elder Titan and Warlock.
Amel, Black's on top of him. Jukes on Jukes. All right, he's out.
But yeah, I mean, you have Elder Titan, you have Warlock. You feel like, oh, we can always fight in the Rush Pit, but there's a limit to what you can do. The geometry changed a lot when Rush Pit moved, so that Elder Titan isn't nearly as strong in trying to contest the pit as he used to be. And then you have to deal with mech, pipe, global, a lot of factors. So in the end, it could have gone potentially very well, but obviously it was a high-risk environment that ends up giving Clutch their first win in a while. Along with that, now you're going to have your Hex on Tinker extremely soon, but you'll have to note what's in Black's quick buy if you want to see how they're going to respond to that. Oh my goodness.
It's a beautiful thing. I think a lot of anti-mages sort of rejoiced and the rest of the world cringed as we saw and read the patch notes of that item. I feel like it's just... People have been saying it's pretty much exclusively better than Lincoln's, with the exception of weird things like Sunder. But do you think that this changes the complexion of the game so much so that Clutch Gamers are kind of going to be in a no man's land once he picks it up?
Well, I'm curious how it will reshape things, because obviously it does have a pretty high impact of how they want to try to initiate on him. They only have a certain amount of single target abilities they can use to pop that, but I think it'll definitely help Black continue to do what he's already been doing. But I think the idea here is that Armel just tries to force staff him first, and then trying to go from there. It's gonna change up the way that Armel has to play, but I don't think it's any more game breaking than the anti-mage pick was originally.
Okay, fair enough. It is now taken, and the movement in from the side of Faceless, pump faking the ulti, but doesn't decide to go for it. God, he is just ready to go aggressive here, and Vision pretty heavily into the favor of Team Clutch Gamers. That ward there on the high ground, so it's like Faceless again, maybe pressuring. Do you feel like they have to do this at this point?
No, they don't have to, but they just feel like there's a nice opportunity to do so. Black is the least punishable hero of these 5, so just throwing him up there and having 4 heroes bait behind him, very effective.
Hex is done. Need to be careful about this. 4 staff away, hook shot off the mark. They're on top of him, trying to slow. There's the diffusal blade if they can get into range, but they weren't there with the Hex, and instead they're going to use it over here on the Clockwork. So controlled for the moment. They do have the Warlock ulti though. It connects onto 2. So much damage. They're going to be coming out with it, but that is already the Omni Slash down, and actually it's going to be the anti-mage Omni Slashing the Silencer. Aghanims, please. And it looks like Silencer is going to end up dropping. Oh man, that's about the best value you could get out of that one, I think.
Yeah, it's so hard to play around, and so it's still such a new item for a lot of players. They have probably played only against maybe a handful of these anti-mage Aghanim Scepters, so you kind of have to rethink about the fact that he kind of passively has Lincoln's and the
Echo Shell.
Yeah, the Echo Shell of Lotus Orb. It's such an awkward mechanic to try to play around if you haven't. frequently, so especially like a Juggernaut player is not going to be thinking about that nearly as
Dire's
often.
top barracks are under attack.
Well, a rough one indeed. The missile spam is going to be there, but it's really not going to be able to do all that much. And they're still not willing to go for the jump forward there to try and find the kill. And the Basher now online as well for Anti-Mage. Black is just so happy this game, I'm sure.
Yeah, the game just continues to get harder for Clutch gamers. From the draft, you knew that 30 minutes was kind of the clock for them reaching one lane of racks, and now while they did have one really good exchange in the Roche pit, they weren't able to really turn it into objectives, which was, especially before the last pick of the Juggernaut, was our main concern for Clutch gamers lineup as a whole. They've got really good 5-on-5, and in the SEA pubs, that'll be extremely effective. They just, they run at each other, you just drop down, global vacuum, you're like, okay, well, everybody evaporates. But Faceless don't play that way. They love to kind of take advantage of Black's skill set in terms of split pushing and unique farming locations, and then Ice in particular has always been a player that loves to find pickoffs on the side. So I just in general don't think that Clutch gamers, while it would work in a lot of matchups, I don't think this draft works very well against Faceless' playstyle.
No. Well, and do you think that there would have been, could they have taken a different hero in Anti-Mage's case? Because this to me feels like the best possible hero for that draft. Had they banned out an Anti-Mage instead, do you think that, it would have been a Morph Lane instead, or, just one of those other split pushing type of heroes?
Yeah, I think that split push would still be the main answer here. Again, you're only up against a Fire Blast and a Vacuum in terms of stun cancels, so I do feel like there are still plenty of heroes that can kind of be very evasive. Slark was still in the pool, I believe, as
Weaver,
well as Morphling.
probably.
So Weaver, all these heroes that are very slippery, very hard to pin down. So I really don't. I feel like it's more of a problem with Clutch Gamers draft instead of just the pure Anti-Mage pick in of itself.
Okay. Well, we still have a global. there's hope possibly left if they can somehow string it all together. But now with Clockwork there in the pipe, you've got all of the massive amount of AoE damage that Ember Spirit's going to be throwing out almost at the Octarine core. It's feeling like it's going to need the perfect team fight and then some from Clutch Gamers to hold this next push for high ground. And I don't know, they might not even wait. Oh, they're going to defend the tier 2.
Yeah, they need an element of surprise.
Oh,
But they can't break on Black. That's just not going
Ugh.
to work. They need to hit the backline. They need to jump the Warlock. If there's any hope of taking a fight, it means there's no Reign of Chaos. If the Warlock is able to get his ulti out, then the fight just pretty much writes itself. But they're not looking at the backline. They keep on looking at this Anti-Mage who has 2,500 HP and Spell Reflect.
He jumps away. Fine and dandy. Jabs Kex on the way back out, and now they triple remnant forward, so he does not have any more remnants, but Jabs is so quick. Haste Rune doesn't even matter. And combination of luck and skill, Clutch Gamers, that smoke did nothing.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're just kind of grasping at straws at this point. They're trying to find a way back into this game to cinch this win, but right now it seems like it's just all Faceless' game. They get to control the whole map. Tinker has less and less comfort in farming forward, and that's a very bad thing when you're a Tinker. Okay, that's a courier.
Okay.
In the mid lane, just poor little Pudge. I guess Faceless decided 6v5 was a bit too much at this point. They needed to give Clutch Gamers a little bit of a hand-me-down.
Pudge has been pulling his weight so far, and now he ends up dying for it. Rough life for the courier. Yeah, I have no idea how that ended up happening. It's feeling to me like this is almost the inevitable, but if there was a way back into it, you mentioned earlier, it's starting the fight by taking out the Warlock. Pickoffs while they're split pushing, or do you not think that Faceless are even going to try and go for a split push game anymore?
The only heroes that are going to be split pushing and extending themselves are heroes that are very difficult to punish. You have to be so quick on the Tinker to blink in, force Staff to break the Reflect, and still be quick to hex him as a follow-up, and then have all 4 heroes on top of him. Again, it's just, there's an ease of execution with Faceless in terms of pickoffs, in terms of just playing their game. With Clutch Gamers, they have to commit everything all at once, and it's just too predictable. You see that coming a mile away, and that's where the smokes are so important.
Armel over in the trees, throwing out the March of the Machines. Again, holding on for dear life at this point. It is going to be a long Roche respawn time, which is at least something maybe going into the favor of Clutch Gamers. Does it become any easier if you manage to try and just stall this out forever and ever and ever? If you're Clutch Gamers, is there a way back into it by virtue of farming like 30 minutes from now?
I mean, there's a philosophy in Dota where the longer the game goes on, the more opportunities you present for your opponent to make mistakes. So there are some teams that favor just going as long as possible, 1 hour, 2 hour, whatever. And Faceless are just completely
And
trouncing.
this is happening. Yeah, it's a rough life. Well, Anti-Mage's going to continue it. Guess what? He does also have that 50-second Mana Void cooldown reduction. They're on top of the Darkseer and going to be pushed back out, but guess what? He's still going to be chained and rooted, and in just a second, killed. Throw out the Earth Splitter, hits onto the building. Omni Slash as well. Why not? It is going to have kill one.
Didn't have his Yules there.
Okay.
That's one big thing, is he was able to use his Yules in the way he wanted to, but Juggernaut was able to punish that a little bit. Obviously, it's like one Ember Death, and you're getting everything else, so it's perfectly fine for Faceless, but that is the one thing. It's like Yules is so good against Omni Slash, and then you use it offensively once, and you feel very, very vulnerable.
You know, the other thing to mention about this, too, is that the Aghanim Scepter coming back off cooldown, I'm not mistaken that there's no animation for that happening, right?
As far as I know.
And because you end up accidentally hexing yourself like the second or third one as it comes out, particularly if you broke it before you ended up going in. You know what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I definitely know what you're saying, and I think that's kind of difficult to deal with, but it's something that you have to worry about with like Lincoln Sphere and stuff anyways. It's like you don't have that natural animation. You know when it pops, but you don't know when it comes back, so you kind of have to keep the cooldown rolling in your head.
12 seconds is the cooldown for that. So yeah, it's a hard road ahead, but getting a kill with the Juggernaut, it's the beginning. It's the path. Clutch Gamers walking the hard road. He's 8,000, 9,000 net.
Curious if you have any more goals as an anti-mage here in terms of item progression. Moonshard isn't obvious. BOTs will come after treads, but I don't know if you go for like a 7th slot item that you can put in your BOT slot when you're not using them. It's pretty curious. I mean, BKB can create a lot of value, but here it seems like just this Aghanim Scepter alone will kind of soak up the spells that you're really worried about. So I think you're going to be in a same aggressive position, BKB or not.
Okay. There is, of course, all of Clutch Gamers getting ready to, I guess, watch Roche die, as Black is going to be able to hit it.
And that's pretty much how it goes. And it's going to be Jap to pick up the Aegis, so very confident moving forward.
A little bit off the mark.
Chains. Can they go for the offensive duels?
They've already continuing the chase here. They ended up messing up a little bit. The Ice got blocked by Black as he tried to go for the hook shot in, but Black is on top of that Ogre and is taking a good bit of damage, but they managed to get him out nonetheless.
Nice response, but it's still going to be Faceless with the Aegis, and Ember can play very far forward at this point in time.
It's just such a difficult game. Tinker, you'll pressure out all these lanes. Possibly, I mean, there's still all of the tier 2s up right now. Hardy's doing work down bottom, but it's not going to be enough there.
Sad state of game, when you look at Tinker's quick buy and you're like, he's about to buy a Dagon 5, and I don't think it makes the slightest bit of difference. Like, maybe it gives him some more better nuke potential against his Warlock. Like, he's got a Ghost Scepter and Glimmer, so if you get him quickly enough, you can just kind of Dagon 5, nuke him down, and that obviously has the potential, because like, in the end, the backbone of this fight and Faceless in general is still going to be these supports. This Elder Titan and Warlock do need to get spells out to guarantee the fight. Okay. And if you can, punish the backline, then more power to you. The problem is vision, the problem is mobility. It just doesn't seem like they're able to get into a spot where they can actually get these quick hits.
Alright, well, Aghanim's broken there for the moment. He ends up being Glimmer caped. Like you mentioned, it's all of this net worth that's piled up on top of the Anti-Mage, and they can somehow manage to save him for last. Hiding an Anti-Mage is certainly not easy. Possibly there's a way back into it, but that's what they have to do. And Faceless in a pretty good position to make sure that doesn't happen. They again break the Aghanim Scepter. They're out the last word. They're on top of him. Sheepstick there as well. Echo Saber. Excuse me, it's not Echo Saber. Lotus Orb to take it off. He's going to be hexed again, and that throws it back now as well.
Like, how do you actually address this? They're not even using the Aegis here to push. They're just using Black because he's the one that can soak it all up. I mean, he is the sponge of this team, and they have really no choice but to keep on throwing spells at him on the front line, because again, they just can't really penetrate the back line. They have to save their 4 staffs for either breaking a Aghanim's or by gouging out a Clockwork, and as a result, they just can't get where they want to be.
It's just awful right now. Like, The Lotus Orb constantly thrown onto him. They have all this single target disable to try to deal with it, but this is this is extremely disheartening if you are a Clutch Gamers fan out there.
Yeah, I mean, all your spells just wielded against you. Rubik, eat your heart out. Hannah and Isis Ice going for some offensive force step plays. They both see each other, and they both actually attempt to throw each other to the other side of the cliff, but doesn't really mean much of anything. It's still continuous poke, continuous pressure. And it's actually Jab's still playing very far back. Like, he's got the Aegis, and he's like, yeah, let's pretend I don't. Just in case that it gets them into an awkward situation. But in the end, they get what they want, tier 3s, and they continue to just farm and control the map.
Very calculated and calm and collected play coming out from Faceless, although they are hanging out right now, waiting for somebody to go up to the high ground, or I guess just farm out the rest of this wave. Black is just such a monster. Can be building into that Moon Shard next if he wants to as well. But they leave open a little bit of an opportunity here. Again, they only took the tier 3 tower. They can keep the top wave pushed out. Clutch Gamers, it's awful. This is a tough game, but it's not over yet.
It definitely is not. There are bigger leads than this that have been thrown historically, and while Faceless doesn't have a lot of players that are known for just taking a massive advantage and just tossing it down the drain, it has happened to a lot of professional players in this kind of high-stakes environment. So right now, we are just going to be seeing them continue to surround, to suppress, and to pressure, but there's always that possibility that the Warlock oversteps, that they can find nuts, they can find XY, and they can just kind of combo on him instead of continuing to gun down Black.
Oh, Force Staff, yeah, it's a pretty nice one there. They're going to be able to control that Ogre, take him down. Black, he pops his Mantis Stone, just sends those illusions after him. They are still, the upheaval down on the ground to slow everybody up with the gem on the ground. That might stop him. Oh, Juggernaut. Maybe a bit too far forward there. He's put to sleep. There's the vacuum wall onto 3. Okay, Global as well. If they can make this work somehow, some way, but there's just no follow-up. There's nothing there. Omni Slash is going to be onto 2, so Ice is going to drop and possibly can run down another. Is able to get the spin away before the Echo Stomp comes out. Oh. But they're on top of him. There's the Warlock ulti. They drop the upheaval as well. Everybody's slowed to hell. And now Hannah going to get chased down. They use the Mana Void for 1 kill. They're going to take down the Darkseer. And that might just have done it, as only the Clockwork has really died.
Yeah, it's just, they're waving out this wonderful treat of an anti-mage on the front line, and like there's tunnel visioning on it a little bit. They really can't find an opening on the back, and I mean, yeah, they can kill off Isis Ice in the exchange, but the cores could just pretty much do whatever they want. At that point, they take another melee Rax, and we just see the situation get a little bit worse for Clutch Gamers.
And it's, again, like you're talking about too, just like that lack of follow-up disable. You saw a beautiful vacuum wall, but it doesn't matter. There's nothing there to hold them in place afterwards. There isn't that Earth Spirit. There isn't that Sven stun or Invoker combination to come out. And because of it, like, the MKB is there for Juggernaut, so you have the right-click damage, but it's just keeping everybody in place, not happening.
Yeah, I mean, he's moving towards that 6th slot, but he's going to be actually starting to become a real hero and a real confident player in this game, but it's coming too slow a pace. Right now we're seeing that, like, the Anti-Mage is got his Moon Shard, he's working on his own MKB. It's one of those kind of nuclear arms races where you look at, like, the Butterfly versus MKB aspect, and yeah, he finally has the MKB Butterfly, but Black, we see so much quick farm from Black that he's going to be able to pick up his own so quickly. He might even consider selling the Battle Fury, or at least putting in his backpack for when he's fighting.
Chasing down the Jug for the moment, and the Ogre here as well. This is kind of an awkward fight if Clutch Gamers are taking it outside of their base, although Warlock ulti is down. The hook shot going to be off the mark as well.
Not as fun of a game for Daryl as I expected. I thought he'd just have Aghanim Scepter, just be like jumping, zipping across the map over and over, but he's playing very methodically himself. He's kind of self-contained. He's running the pipe back glads, as conservative as you can get, and actually breaking the smoke with the ward up. They know exactly what's going on, and he's actually still going in.
Omni Splash, alright, see you later, Daryl. He's gone.
Conservative, my...
Yeah, he's not actually a little bit unfortunate. A little bit of Caster's curse there, but it happens. Now Tinker control for the moment. They get out the global silence, but the Echo Shaper's there. Another vacuum wall. Maybe, just maybe, they can take these heroes down. That's going to be jabs out of there, but the Fatal Bonds. Black's on top of them all. They want to take the kill. They're back into the fight. Remnant forward. And with a double kill there for both of the cores. Looks to also be a dead silencer. There's the lift up with the Yule Scepter. Fly Solo is gone.
Yeah, and with that, of course, we look at the buyback stats and see that there really aren't any options for the buyer here. Silencer has it, Juggernaut used it, but that's not going to be saving your racks from anything. That is going to be pretty much guaranteeing the victory here for Faceless here at the opening match for the Kiev Major SCA qualifiers.
Beautiful display from them. Nothing that I think anybody is surprised by. Still, a couple of cool things to talk about in the draft is the GG is finally going to be called by Clutch. The Elder Titan in combination with the Ember Spirit, I think that's pretty neat. Is there anything else that really stands out to you as far as what you saw in these teams, things that you like, things that you're concerned about?
Well, I was concerned about the kind of lack of options it seemed for the mid play for Clutch Gamers. The fact that, you know, they banned out OD, Shadow Fiend in Phase 2, Phase